Vanquish is one of those games where you're like, oh, I remember playing that game. That was fun. Then you went back to see if it holds up with the nostalgia version that's in your brain. But then you find out that it's even better than you remember. Unless you just straight out never played it, because Vanquish was a commercial failure on release, even though this game is still a masterclass in third-person shooting. But I feel like no one is talking about it compared to the likes of Max Payne and Gears of War. And while those games are legendary titles, I feel like Vanquish also deserves to stand side by side with them as one of the greats. Of course it's not perfect, but nothing is. This game got pretty close to it though. Released in 2010, Vanquish was developed by Platinum Games and directed by Hideo Kojima. Directed by Shinji Mikami, aka the guy that created Resident Evil and also revolutionized the third-person shooter genre with Resident Evil 4. And this game is basically what happens if Mikami saw Gears of War and said, I can make it crazier, and boy, he sure did. But before we move on further, please like, share, and subscribe. It will really help me and the channel, so I can make more stuff like this. Anyway, back to the video. But how does the game actually holds up today? I think you already know what I thought about it, but I'll elaborate on it a bit further and why I love this game a lot. Let's start with the premise, shall we? It's a normal day in San Francisco. Everyone is going through their day, but then someone got the idea to unleash a beam on San Francisco at the beginning of the story, instead of at the climax. At first, it was fine, but things get worse. A whole lot worse. San Francisco is just gone now. Evil ultra-nationalist space Russians claimed the attack and demanded the USA to unconditionally surrender in 10 hours before they use the space station that they've taken over to destroy New York. So to prevent a tragedy that will surpass 9/11, now the USA mobilizes the Space Marines, led by Lieutenant Colonel Burns, aka Steve Bloom with extra gruff,
currently under the control of those responsible for the coup in Moscow,
to take back the space station from the ultra-nationalists. Why are they allowing a space station that can destroy cities on a whim in orbit in the first place? Who gives a f***? You are playing as Sam Gideon, voiced by Gideon from Call of Duty Advanced Warfare, who is voiced by Gideon Emery, who is voiced by Fenris from Dragon Age 2. A power armor super soldier from DARPA, who is competing with Snake on who can ruin their lungs and vocal cords faster by smoking so much.
nothing better than a smoke to remind you you're alive.
He's attached to the Marines as a force multiplier, assisted by another DARPA operative, Elena Ivanova, but they have another agenda, a secret agenda, in addition to the Marines' mission. As it turns out, the creator of the power armor and the space laser is in the station, and that someone in the higher echelons of the government has betrayed the USA. Sam has two missions. 1. Stop the Order of the Russian Star from causing Super 9/11, and 2. Save Professor Candide and find out who the traitor is. And to do that, you boost and do the sickest shit imaginable. Simple but effective premise. I sure hope it sticks the landing though. But before we get to that part, let's start with the options. I gotta say, Vanquish got a damn good PC port. Fully rebindable controls. What? The ability to invert the camera, separated audio options, fully controllable camera speed and mouse sensitivity, brightness levels that doesn't lie to you, the ability to turn off parts of the UI, so many languages too, with separated options. How many games even allow you to do this? And look at all of these graphical settings, and you can actually see how much VRAM that you're going to use with these settings. It might as well not be a port with how good the options are. You can even pick different UI layouts or just turn it off completely if you want. In the game itself though, the gameplay is at 60 FPS and runs like a dream with no stuttering during gameplay. While I'm not recording that is, so I apologize for the low frame rate in the footage. It's because my PC couldn't take it. I do have to note during gameplay, because sometimes the cutscene stutters and this syncs the audio.
this the United States of America.
SCO-1 Providence is currently under the control of those responsible for the coup in Moscow.
Which was kinda annoying, but it's fine. I also didn't experience any bugs during gameplay, which is a rarity for me, considering how many times games bugs out for no reason while I'm playing. This is probably one of the best PC ports of a Platinum game, and it's even crazier that the port came out at a time when Japanese developers doesn't really care that much about PC ports. But it's time now we see the results of the settings. How is the presentation? Vanquish is kinda weird on this. Sometimes it looks kinda dated, but sometimes it looks straight up timeless. Generally, outside of combat, the game looks kinda drab with barely any color. Character models doesn't even have mouth flaps during conversation in gameplay. It kinda looks like Metal Gear Rising, which was released 3 years after this game, just shinier. Even the character models looks pretty similar, but I guess that's just the Platinum look. I do have to say that this game actually looks better than Metal Gear Rising, and I love Metal Gear Rising, but like, look how much tech porn there is on Sam's power armor. Like, look at how it cools down. You can see the heat haze and the core cooling down. I also love how many moving parts in his armor. You can see like his jets activating, his helmet forming around his head, or how it heats up when you do melee attacks. The armor itself is a feast for the eyes, and almost the whole game is actually like this. The blade system, aka the reason why you can carry more than 2 big weapons, is a visual treat too. It's basically a gun grip that can make 3D copies of a weapon on the fly, and it looks great. You can see the weapons deforming and forming the weapon that you switch to. You can even see the details on each part forming into your weapon of choice. I also like the differences between the rougher tech Colonial Marines or Gears of War look that the Marines have compared to Sam and DARPA's very sleek, cutting edge and anime look. It shows how different the tech they use, like they even have a different model for their weapons, which is kinda strange because the blade system copies a weapon down to its tiniest detail. They even say this in game, but the copied weapon looks different and a lot more sleeker than what the Marines used. I guess DARPA can't stand having the operatives using rough looking weapons, eh? The game looks the most alive and dynamic when you're in combat though, where bullets and sparks fly. And dirt too, which is enhanced by the slow-mo ability, so you can actually see each bullet and rocket that's coming towards you. And character animations in general are also great. They are quite more dynamic than what you expect from a third-person shooter. Mostly the enemy bots, which are the ones that you're going to interact with the most. They tumble, they jump over cover, you can shoot their legs off and they'll crawl towards you. And the way they just react to your shots is also great, which makes the weapons feel really powerful, especially the shotgun. They also have really fun, creative, and easy to recognize designs, which really helps with target prioritization during combat. I'm also impressed by how big some of these battlefields can get. Add in the superb and punchy sound design, where you can feel every step you take and every shot you fire. Which is kinda crazy because the game goes really fast most of the time, and a rich soundscape. All of these parts makes combat feel like pure unadulterated cinematic bliss. In general, the animations look amazing in this game and really adds to the gameplay. And I don't even need to mention the QTEs. They're so sick beyond belief, oh my god! The game also has one of the best motion blur effects that I've ever seen, to the point that I don't mind having it on, as I feel like it adds into the visual style of the game with how kinetic everything is, including the cutscenes. They're like what if Call of Duty was directed by Platinum. including the dead seriousness but with platinum insanity. It's pretty interesting and acted well enough, but there's no standout roles nor there's horrible acting. It's decent. I do like how the codec thing looks though. Reminds me of strategy games with the canned talking animations. And while the game isn't that much of a looker outside of combat and cutscenes, there's still interesting looking environments and skyboxes because of how massive the station is, which kinda reminds me of Halo actually. Unfortunately, I feel the music is kinda lacking in Vanquish. I cannot remember a single track from this game, except for the very last one, but how could you forget that? And they all just kinda blend into the techno background, which is a shame really, because Platinum usually has some really great music to punctuate the action. But this one's just kinda blends in, so it's not bad, nor good, just kinda mid. At least there's no Overall, I think the game still looks great, even with the dated parts, supported by some strong art direction and its love for engineering, especially during combat, where everything about the game's presentation just clicks and it makes you feel like Vanquish. Wait, what does that even mean? Just don't expect RTX lighting or hyper-realism. The game wasn't even aiming for that. But what about the most important part of an action game? The gameplay. Fundamentally, Vanquish is a linear third-person cover shooter with regenerating health, but that's selling it short, very short. A more accurate description of Vanquish is that it's what happens if you mix Gears of War with tons of crack, Max Payne, Sonic, and Call of Duty, then have Platinum mix it. There is cover that you can pop and shoot from. You can do that if you want. But why the hell do you want to do that? When you can boost in, shoot them while sliding, then drop kick one of them and use that momentum to kick off them to do a flip while shooting more enemies on the way down. As you can see, even as a cover shooter, Vanquish is a very stylish game, just like Platinum's other games. Sam has so much more mobility than the average cover shooter protagonist. He can boost anytime, anywhere as long as you have energy for it. He can jump over cover. He can roll much faster than average. He can instantly switch to another weapon with no downtime, with some caveats. And he has that Max Payne ability to slow down time. Just crank it up to 11, as long as you have energy for it. In Vanquish, you only take cover when you have to. The game even penalizes you for taking cover too much. You even have the ability to distract enemy fire by smoking while in cover, so you can get out there and style on them. The only thing that will be limiting you is your boost energy. Well, it's actually called AR gauge, but I just like calling it energy. And how many ammo you carry. When you use your energy too much, the suit will overheat, which will not allow you to boost, activate bullet time, slows down your movement in general, including your roll, and no second chance. And also, the cooldown will be longer than if you perfectly time your use of it, which you can definitely do, squeezing nearly all of the energy that you have, but just stopping right before it overheats. It also helps that the UI is very user-friendly, always giving you visibility on what resources you have, placing them where your eyes will be looking at, which is just really smart UI design. Unless the developer won't go as far as putting another bar that shows the same thing that another bar already shows, and thinks that the first bar at the bottom or top of the screen will be enough. No, Platinum knew how intense the fights will get, and so they put them near your crosshairs, including a target's health bar, which is the most likely place for your eyes to look at, and also the way the camera zooms out when you move backwards, giving you more spatial awareness when you're probably trying to run away. It's just so f***ing good! Though overheating is inevitable, as using melee attacks, if it hits, will immediately overheat the suit. Some enemies can also force it, and being down to very low health indicated by the lights on the suit, and some other less than subtle effects. Will activate slow-mo until it rounds out as a second chance mechanic, which will cause your suit to overheat, and if you're already overheating when you took too much damage, you'll just die. It's a very fun tightrope of a gameplay loop, where you have to be wary of your resources while also being very aggressive in destroying the opposition in combat. As combat usually takes place in big arenas with hyper-aggressive enemies to accommodate Sam's crazy mobility, I do have to note that Sam can only roll in 4 directions, just like in the original Dark Souls. In short, there's no diagonal rolls. This does take a bit to get used to, but it was fine at the end. But if there's ever a sequel, diagonal rolls and boosts are something that they must add in, as it will make the game feel even more smooth and responsive, which is Vanquish's main thing. But as for the arenas themselves, some of them can get pretty huge too, and some of them can get pretty weird, and some of them are actively trying to kill you. They're pretty varied and crafted really well, with just enough covers for you to use while you're boosting around the arena most of the time. There's even multiple variations of covers with their own strengths and weaknesses, like high covers giving you full cover but a bit harder to boost from, or low covers that gives you the opposite. There's just so much thought put into it, revolving around the boost mechanic. Though there are some amazing set pieces that doesn't involve the boost mechanic, and they're pretty great, like the Hot Wheels train sequence. They're not all gold, however. The stealth sniper mission on a slow-moving tram later in the game, while kind of funny in how sportive the marines are towards you, it's not a particularly engaging set piece because I feel it goes against the game's over-the-top feel and also very basic and boring. Thankfully, it was a very short sequence.
Sam, great shot. Nice shot, Sam. Nice shot, Sam. Enemy disabled.
And speaking about the Marines, Sam is almost always accompanied by them. And Burns, can't forget him. They'll fight with him against the bots, but their AI aren't great and kinda super tidal, as they like to lift the cover and get torn apart, try to engage melee bots at close range, doesn't bother dodging grenades, and will get into your line of fire. But his shots won't do anything to them though, and Sam will just shout for them to get out of his line of fire. They will still block your shots though, so it can be quite a bit annoying sometimes. Their shots also won't do anything to you other than hurting your feelings, but their grenades can kill you, so I recommend just staying away from them as much as you can. They can actually get down, in which you can revive them to get items and weapons, which is pretty nice, and the only time you should get close to a marine, ever. And their survival will actually affect your score, so if you wanna get high scores, you actually have to mildly care about them. Just mildly though. They're pretty much like the Delta Force in the Fear games. They're born to die. The only thing that they're actually good for is distracting the bots, while you close in and blow them away. And what do you blow them away with? Guns. And Vanquish has a bunch of them.
Whiskey a go-go, baby.
Vanquish has a 3-weapon system, not including the grenades. And yes, you can switch between them mid-shooting, with the only limiting factor being the rate of fire of the weapon that you're switching it from. So fully automatic weapons can switch between one another seamlessly. It even skips the animations. While switching it to the assault rifle from a shotgun will cause it to wait for the shotgun's pump action animation to finish before you can actually shoot the assault rifle, even when your gun is already transforming into the assault rifle. So it's not that OP. You don't have the ability to shotgun cancel enemies to death, not at first at least. It makes you use all of the tools that you have in your inventory, including the ability to throw hands and feet. You know what, let's talk about the melee system, shall we? Trust me, it involves guns too. So your melee attack in Vanquish actually differs depending what weapon you're using. And by different, I mean it can be game changing, except for the universal boosted dropkick. That one's universal. While some of the melee attacks are pretty standard melee bash attacks, others allow other avenues of attack, and they can be pretty powerful. I really like this system, as it allows the weapon to be pretty unique to one another, even if some of the melee attacks can overlap with each other. But unfortunately, this power fantasy of flipping and dipping, JoJo punching, and dropkicking enemies is kinda neutered by how it will immediately overheat your suit if the attack connects, which will cause it to awkwardly scramble for cover as you cool down. I feel like it kinda destroys the momentum that the game is going for. I think it would have been better if the game has melee on a different charge, or at least like a quarter of it, half of it even. Just not all of them with one melee attack. It's just too much and breaks the momentum of the game. And that way, you're actually spending resources in a smart way, as some of these melee attacks are not worth the expense. It doesn't get used at all, which is a shame because all of them are pretty cool looking, but they might need to balance the damage or make it only do massive damage after you open them up, or they're at low enough health that the melee will just finish them off. And with that done, let's get to the weapons themselves, shall we?
Get out of the way!
Guns in Vanquish feels really good to shoot, like really good. They sound punchy, they have nice reloads, and enemies react to them in over-the-top ways that makes them feel really powerful and fun to shoot. I also like how your bullets travel faster than the enemies. It makes you feel like a Vanquish when you can kill so many boss in a split second. And they're surprisingly varied too, with non-standard gun selections, like the lock-on laser, beam bazooka, and the LEV launcher. They still have the standards though, and gives you 3 at the start, but even they got pretty punched up for this game. Let's begin with the humble assault rifle. It's basically the plasma cutter of Vanquish, being really good for any and all situations, including sniping, with great balance in damage, accuracy, and rate of fire. I cannot let go of this weapon because it just works in any all situations, which is why it's the poster gun. The melee though isn't really the best, but it's definitely the coolest. It's the accurate scan style attack with a massive haymaker at the end of the rush. It looks extremely cool, but it's very impractical, as enemies usually can only take a few hits before dying, while the big ones can just tank it and smack your ass away, likely killing you as you'll immediately overheat, or they'll just run away from the attack. The only time I manage to use this attack fully is against one specific boss while they're down, and you still gotta do it fast too, as they can just move away from the attack because it won't actually stagger them, except for the final hit. Very cool, but very impractical in contrast to the boring but very practical assault rifle. The next one is of course the shotgun. Any shooter worth their salt will have a really good feeling shotgun, and Vanquish delivers that beautifully. It's pump action and it's really fucking powerful. Like any shotgun, it's not great at range but incredibly devastating at close range. Even when it doesn't destroy them, it will stagger or knock the clankers down hard. And while it can be wasteful to use it with the slow-mo because of its inherently slow pump action every shot, but you can mitigate it by rolling after every shot, so by the time the roll ends, you can immediately shoot again. The shotgun is also one of the best recipients of the game's upgrade system. I'll get back to you later. Which will increase its firepower even further and ups its rate of fire to semi-auto levels. So the low rate of fire weakness doesn't really matter anymore and you can just go ham on them. Its melee strike complements its aspect too. A chargeable backhand attack with armor properties, allowing to tank some melee attacks but not all without taking any damage, and then retaliate with a devastating backhand that blows them away. It's probably one of the most fitting melee attacks that they can attach to a shotgun. Keep your friends close and your enemies closer. The third one is the heavy machine gun. More damaging than an assault rifle, but with less accuracy, ammo, and rate of fire. Kinda strange when you think about it, but it's closer to like a heavy assault rifle for mid-range. And while it's nothing really special in the grand scheme of things, its ability to put out massive amounts of damage at mid to close range is great. And the fact that you can just switch the assault rifle vice versa without any downtime makes it a great backup weapon. It also has one of the best melee attacks in the game, the somersault kick, which while you can use it to hit enemies as usual, can also be used to activate slow-mo from a higher position anytime you want. Because remember, as long as you don't hit anyone, the suit won't overheat. So if some covers are blocking your view when you do your standard roll slow-mo, you can use the somersault instead and get the advantage over enemies hiding behind cover, but exposing yourself too much by jumping over their cover and right into their mosh pit. There's also the high power pistol, which basically works as a hand cannon, a single shot sniper with a unique sweeping kick melee attack, a boost heavy machine gun which is an amped up version of the normal heavy machine gun but with lower ammo capacity, and of course the rocket launcher. Well, it's actually a missile launcher, but you can just use it like a rocket launcher. But that's basically it for the normal guns. Vanquish also has weird guns, like the lock-on laser which fires homing laser that goes up into the sky and aimboss any target in your crosshair. It's a pretty good fire and forget weapon but has low damage to compensate, so it won't kill them instantly, but it sure will stop some of the weaker enemies on their tracks. Another weird gun is a disc launcher. It launches discs, well they're actually buzzsaws, and they're pretty powerful. Its main thing is cutting off the clanker's limbs. They're especially good against the Romanov types, but its other main thing is that its melee attack is a chainsaw attack that will lock those clankers down and doesn't overheat you. Yes, it's the only melee attack in the game that doesn't overheat you. It's also especially effective against some of the bosses. The Bee Bazooka, as I like to call it, is an incredibly good weapon. It charges up fast, it does great damage, insanely accurate, but it uses your energy to fire. It's a very interesting weapon with a big trade-off. Last but not least is the LFE gun. It's one strange gun. It fires one huge ball of death that slowly travels forward from your firing position. Well, not necessarily death, but one huge ball of blowing away doesn't hit the ear right. Its unique properties is that the projectile just goes through just about anything. No amount of cover will stop it from moving, which makes it really effective against one specific boss type. And also, it's just a really good get-off-me weapon and very unique in terms of an unorthodox weapon to have in the game. But let's talk about the grenades for a bit. They're grenades. There's two types of them, a normal frag one and an EMP one. The frag one works exactly like you think a grenade works, only this time, you can shoot them out of the air to detonate them early. They're very effective. The EMP ones are contact grenades and will stun clankers, but you're completely immune to it, so it's good to just throw one under your feet if you need some breathing room. And no enemy is immune to it, even bosses are not immune to it. Well, I haven't checked the big ones. They will instantly kill flyers though. However, I have to note that there's actually multiple grenade throwing animations in the game. There's the normal one and the jumping one. While this may be a nice attention to detail, the jumping one can easily get you killed because it will lock in into that animation and not allowing you to cancel it to anything else, which does make the grenade throwing feel randomly stiff, which I don't really like. And also I really don't know what caused it. Could be the arc or whatever you're doing before, but I think it would have been better if you can just cancel the grenade animation for a more responsive gameplay. But overall, I'd say that Vanquish has a good amount of weapon variety. You have the standards and the unusuals, and they're all pretty unique with almost zero overlap. There's basically a gun for every playstyle, even the one that goes against the main mechanic of the game. And all of these weapons can be upgraded. And on that note, it's finally time to talk about the upgrade system. I'm not gonna lie, I don't like it. The first problem that I have with it is that you cannot upgrade your suit at all, so no increased boost or anything like that. In fact, your suit doesn't get upgraded at all throughout the entire game. There's no devil trigger or reaper mode mechanic too. You do not have a super state. Well, you do, but it only comes at the very end, and I wish the game allows us to tap into that amount of power a bit more throughout the entire game. As Sam's super mode. And while I do know that it won't be as effective as a moment if you can tap into that amount of power throughout the entire game, and there might be some balancing issues, but I still argue that by limiting it normally like how you limit a super mode in a character action game, then giving us the unlimited form of it at the end just like in the game itself, will be just as effective because by that part, it's just a victory lap, so it won't matter anyway. This is just a hypothetical argument for something that doesn't exist in the game, but I think the game will be even more fun if it has it, so they are probably saving it for the non-existent sequel. Like how they only add Umbran Climax in Bayonetta 2, while in 1 she only has serious mode that canonically only appear during boss fights, and not something you can access normally in game without the use of items. But for something that actually exists in the game though, so you can upgrade your weapons by gathering these giant hollow cubes, which will increase a weapon star. That's your upgrade level for that weapon, or by picking up a weapon of the same type that you're using. But you need to carry full ammo for that gun. If you topped off, it'll add a chevron, which will eventually turn into a star. I think you can see the problem with this mechanic. So to upgrade the weapon using another weapon, which is probably the most likely thing you're gonna do because those cube drops are rare, you actually have to not use it at all. Use the weapon that you want to do upgrade, I mean, and use other guns instead, so it's always at max ammo. And of course, pray that you got good RNG drops, so you can max it out fast. This mechanic is just bad and counterintuitive. It should have been the more you use it, the better the weapon gets, not the other way around. It results in scenarios where you really don't want to use the shotgun so you can upgrade it, but you also really want to use the shotgun. It's limiting but not in a fun way. And while it is fun when you finally max it out and get to use the fully upgraded version, if you got lucky with the gacha that is, it's still dumb that you have to save the weapons that you wanted to upgrade first for later. Thankfully, upgraded weapon sticks to all versions that you can find, so you don't need to worry about switching out a weapon to try some new one. It will still have the upgrade no matter where you pick it up from. Provided that you don't die, that is. In Vanquish, if you die, you don't just get killed, you lose your weapon upgrades. Quite a bit actually. And with how mean Vanquish can get sometimes, you can get smacked back to base form weapons real quick. Unsurprisingly, I also don't like this system. With how difficult and RNG based the upgrade system already is, the fact that you can lose them so easily is just not fun, and even frustrating sometimes. Like you already have to deal with a bad system, and then when you make a mistake, you're punished massively for it, and not in a fun way. Thankfully, there's a way to get around this system. Instead of continuing, you can just go back to the main menu and continue, which will send you back to the most recent checkpoint while retaining your upgrades. But this also means I can't really count how many times I've died in this game. For that again, purposes, because this method won't count the death where you went back to the main menu. And also it's mildly annoying to go back to the main menu every time you die, when the game could have just allowed you to keep your upgrades and have some actual character progression in the game that can be really mean sometimes. These things made it harder to appreciate the upgrade system that the game has, because it's actually really fancy and fun. Weapon gets very noticeably better, especially the shotgun, and you can even see they updated the models with attachment and mods on each milestone upgrade. Not even Binary Domain does that. I think it would have been better if the game just uses a normal upgrade system that character action games have, with shops or end of the level screens where you can upgrade your stuff with the points that you've earned doing stuff stylishly, and make them actually permanent so that there's a sense of progression throughout the game, other than just your skills generally getting better. And also using the scoring system, which are only for bragging rights, as they don't do anything else whatsoever. And while that's fine that there's no extrinsic incentive to do stuff stylishly other than you want to, but it can cause people to play it like a normal cover shooter, instead of enjoying the game to its fullest potential, by pushing them to fight stylishly instead of practically. Multiple mosquitoes with one swing. Bzzz. And you know what else makes that sound? Clankers. And this game has some really good ones.
Glug glug, bitches.
Most of the time, you'll be fighting evil space Russian clankers, and they're pretty varied too, like from the Mugorgis, walking landmines, to the tougher Romanovs, and mechanical nightmares like Bia. The game has a varied roster of enemies to fight, and they're all pretty fun. It also helps that they have different variants. The Gorgis, aka the standard grunts, are your bread and butter enemies you'll fight the most. They have multiple variants, the Sonics, the Snipers, the Elites, and the RPG clankers, which the Marines really loves pointing them out. I love these guys. They kinda remind me of the replica soldiers from Fear, with how reactive they are. They can get scared and try to retreat, flush you out with grenades, or when all else fails, try to combo you to death, and if that fails, they'll try to turn you into ground zero instead. They can also use vehicles from dropships to walkers that they can actually hijack, by the way. But even with all that, I can't help but feel sorry for these guys. They're hopelessly outmatched by Sam, and all they can do is just to deal with it. They're great grunt enemy types. The Romanovs though takes the cake for being the most fun enemy type to fight in the game. They have a few variants, and they're all pretty unique. Even though they came from the same clanker type, they're big, tough, and dangerous, and also very noticeable in the crowd. And if you didn't notice them, they'll make sure you notice them. With the variants being very different from one another, but all of them just as dangerous. Well, some of them are more dangerous than the others, like the G-types having a big boy missile that will instantly kill you if it hits. And yes, these things track you. At least they have a loud siren announcing their arrival though. I sure hope it doesn't get drowned out. Or the D-type's tendency to go full aggro on you, forcing you to go out of cover. Though no matter how dangerous they are, there's multiple ways to take them out instantly. Like, you can shoot the big boy missile the moment it leaves the cannon, and that will instantly kill them. And most of them usually have a weak point on their backs, especially the F-types. By the way, all of the Romanov types are equipped with a burst fire attack, which will go through cover and will instantly kill you if it connects. They're easily noticeable, even more than the missiles, so it's not that dangerous, but it will keep you on your toes. They're my favorite enemy types, dangerous, ferret, and tough as hell, but still have ways to deal with them cleanly with some knowledge checks and skillful play. The other notable enemy type is the Bia, and that because it's a biatch! They're basically a Beast Wars Transformer mixed with Bayformers the Fallen. They're just straight up boss enemies in non-boss clothing, and actually more dangerous than some of the bosses. They are very dangerous in any range. If you're out of range, they'll shoot you with their staff cannon, which hits very hard and also accurate. And if you get close enough, they'll turn into a Dark Souls boss and start doing actual combos at you. And if that wasn't enough, he can transform into his Ravage form and goes to town. One of the hardest parts of the game, I think, is when you have to fight two of them at the same time. And while they still have their Romanov weakness at their backs, they're far less likely to stagger from it. I still found them enjoyable to fight, but that double Fia fight is really something else. Especially when they start working together, Orange Steel and Smoke style, with one going Ravage to flush you out of cover and the other one blasting you from afar. And that's just some of the normal enemy types. There's more, like the tanks, the giant jellyfish bomber, and normal drones. I don't think I need to mention that enemy variety is very important for an action game like this, and Vanquish has a very healthy enemy variety, even if most of them are just variants. They're all pretty different from one another, and they're really fun to fight, with great enemy placements too. They're all challenging in a fun way. But what is a good action game without great bosses? And Vanquish still delivers, including the insane QTEs, with some caveats. That caveat being, Vanquish has a tendency to reuse his boss fights multiple times, and while I'm actually okay with this, some people might not be. I think that even when they reuse the bosses, they're usually at different enough situations and with different QTEs, that it makes the fight fresh. And honestly, I'll take a few excellent memorable bosses over a diverse range of mid bosses. The most reused one being the Argus types, which is probably the most complex boss type in the game, with the most mechanics. They're massive spider walkers that can turn into bipedal mechs. Their grand scale and straight up holy shit inducing attacks that they can unleash makes them a treat to fight. Their weaknesses are the glowing parts, usually at the joints, which will shut them down a bit so you can shoot their core. Careful though, it will also shoot off Drakengard rings which will overheat you if it hits. They also have a lot of weapon subsystems, but you can also destroy them, including blowing off their arms. They have a lot of attacks, and I mean a lot, and they're also a great showcase for the type of game that you're playing right now, which is why they're your first boss. The second type are unknowns. They are very weird. They're more like a mass of garbage that will fire lasers at you. Those mass of DMC shield protects his core, which you need to hit to damage them. They're not particularly difficult bosses, but they're pretty intense, mostly because of their one very notable attack. They have a grab attack that will instantly kill if it hits, and this attack comes out hard and fast, which will probably catch you off guard if you don't know it's coming. Otherwise, they are not particularly dangerous though, and they are very weak to the LFE gun because of his no-clip ability, which will instantly go through his massive Bioshock Infinites and hit the core. But you can still hit them enough that it will disassemble, exposing its core. It won't go down without a fight though, and will sprout f***ing legs to run away from you as it tries to gather more copies of Gollum. Melee attack at this phase will do absolutely devastating amounts of damage, but might expose you to a grab attack. It's a high risk, high reward type move, which I love in these types of games. They're pretty fun, but also kinda terrifying to fight. There's also the Crystal Vipers. They're actually just T-1000s crossed with the Predator. The cool Predators, not the uncool Predators. They're also really fun to fight, and I love how you can parry their attacks and give them the good old Vegeta Wallop. And that's just some of the bosses. I love how different they are from one another. One is a giant transforming mecha, the other one is the T-1000, and the other one is a pile of garbage that can cut your head off. Bosses are just fun to fight in this game, and none of them feel cheap. There's only one that's too easy, but hey, nothing's perfect. Like this game's replay value.
Those red bastards will never know the beauty of a Kentucky bourbon.
Unfortunately, I don't think Vanquish has as good replay value as other Platinum games. 1. There's no New Game Plus. 2. The scoring system doesn't hit the dopamine as much as other games because it uses numbers instead of letters or trophies. Like, I don't feel anything about scoring when it's all just numbers, even if there's actually an online leaderboard that you can compete in. I would have cared more if I can see how I rank in the levels and put all of the mission results in one screen than in some nebulous leaderboard that doesn't even work when I recorded this. And last but not least, there's only one more difficulty unlocked after finishing the game, God Heart. I think there should be one more or two difficulty options that's above Heart but below God Heart, because the difficulty spike from Heart to God Heart is quite something. You know what? F it, let's talk about God Heart for a bit. So God Heart is your super difficult option with remix enemy placements that's usually unlocked after you finish the game, but there's a few things that makes it quite different than others of its ilk. First, because there's no New Game Plus mode, you are playing as base Sam without any upgrades. And second, you can't upgrade your weapons in God Heart. Well, at least you don't have to go to the main menu every time you die anymore. Third, your suit is GIMP, and that means it drains energy noticeably faster, overheats longer, and your health regens slower. And fourth, enemies are dead set on killing you. If you're in their vicinity, they will just ignore the marines around them and just go straight for you. The only saving grace is that the enemies aren't necessarily tougher, you're just much weaker. I feel like there's some missing steps from Heart to God Heart. Like bro, I just want a harder version of the campaign with remix and replacements, but I keep the upgrades. Is that really too much to ask? I much prefer that rather than making me weaker. Just make the enemies stronger, or have more of a nightmare blunt rotation of enemy placements. So yeah, some people might find it fun, but it just wasn't for me. But enough about God Heart. So other than trying to get better scores or God Heart, and just wanting to replay the game, which I fully understand, there's collectibles in the form Pangloss statues that you can find hidden throughout the game. The game doesn't have much in the way of exploration, but there's still some nooks and crannies for these things to hide. And while not necessarily replay value, the game has challenge missions. 6 of them in fact, and boy, some of them sure live up to its name. 4 and 6 especially. While the difficulty is actually on normal, and you can't change it, the enemy combination is what makes it a real fight, especially after mission 3, where there's no marines to back you up. You can choose the missions for any order except for 6, for a very good reason. They're all pretty fun though, and really test your skills without gimping your abilities too, which makes it a fun challenge, and adds more into the game's notoriously short length. And about that length, while I do think it was short, I don't think it was so short that it detracts from it, especially if you play in higher difficulties, which is why I recommend playing on hard mode the first time, if you're good with action games and third-person shooters that is, because this game sure can get mean sometimes. As I personally think that hard has the perfect amount of challenge. Well, maybe slightly tip on the difficulty side, but not too much. There is casual auto though if you just want to breeze through the game and finish it as fast as possible. Or just want to ease yourself in all cozy like. Normal is normal though, there's nothing wrong playing on normal. On to the story. Thank you for watching. Alright, I kid. But is there anything to say about the story? The plot is already super thin as it is. Even if I recap it like usual, there's gonna be so many long stretches of Sam and Burns just go somewhere to destroy something without any meaningful plot or character development. So instead of a full recap, I'm just gonna tell you the parts that actually advances the plot and character moments. Spoilers ahead. So in the beginning, Sam and Burns pretty much hated each other to the point that Burns tried to shank him even before landing for smoking. And Sam is just an asshole to him in general.
This the toy you've been working on? Not even scratched. You did get some training in this thing, right?
Our simulators are very thorough. They did quite a number on you, huh? We could use you as a test subject at DARPA. What the fuck, man?
You're not allowed to smoke on the ship.
Sam being a DARPA operative instead of a Marine alienates him from the Marines too, but this amounts to nothing in the long run. So after a rough landing, they pretty much bicker with each other whenever they can, while Elena helps them with hacking and giving them seat reps, and being the general voice of reason as they make their way through the station to stop the cannon from firing. The game tries to make it seem that Sam and Burns are warming up to each other, but every time that they showed care for one another, like Sam screaming Burns' name as he fell to his apparent death, but after meeting again, they just went back to bickering again. While they do joke around more later, it's still pretty much the same dynamic, and none of them budge in their opinion of the other. There's also a theme of sacrifice, and how much they are willing to sacrifice to finish the mission, and this goes nowhere. One of the main character conflicts in the game is that Sam, even though he's kind of an ass most of the time, is a lot more idealistic and values the Marine's life more than Burns because he's a cynical veteran that's willing to sacrifice his men to finish the mission. For most of the game, Burns gets his way in sacrificing his men for the cause, also the Marines sacrificing themselves for the cause, with Burns gruffly obliges. While Sam only gets his way once throughout the entire story, I feel confused on what the game is trying to tell me. Or maybe the game itself is confused, but hold up in on that. We'll get back to that later. Later on, the duo finds Professor Candide, the guy that Sam was looking for, but he failed to save him because he was interrupted by Zaitsev himself, aka Bogey. Finding this out makes Burns angry because he wasn't briefed about this agenda that DARPA has in rescuing Candide. Seems like an important plot point, but this doesn't amount to anything and is forgotten almost immediately. Much later on, we got to reveal that the traitor was in fact the President herself.
Why did you attack? We were supposed to be cooperating.
Do you take me for a fool? Cooperation is mutual exploitation. We have merely exploited you first.
What are you saying?
I am saying that our spirit of cooperation may be a little less spirited. It is time to move on. We will speak again after your unconditional surrender.
She instigated the coup that made the evil space Russian took over the Russian government, and also gave the space station with the microwave cannon to them, and she did all of this to stimulate the economy through war, which is unbelievably stupid. While war can stimulate the economy during the early days, the cost that a war between superpower nations with actual space techs will be astronomical, in more ways than one. Does she think that her country will be safe because her enemy are on a different continent? Or does she believe that they will never use the cannon when there's no failsafe at all, and no one stopping them? The Zaitsev said, "Pretty please, I want the giant space station with the CD destroyer cannon." That was fucking bad. And she just gave it to them? Also, what happened to the people that live in the colony? People obviously live there. You can even see some entertainment districts and public transport, but there's not a single local in sight. Did Zaitsev just ate them all? Is that why he's bald? So much later on, now that the evil space Russians refuses to cooperate with her, the president has her own plans, which she secretly tells Burns while he's separated from Sam after Burns sacrificed a lot of Marines once again, whom she talks to like she knew Burns personally, speaking ominously about something that must be done. By the way, it's rumored that Burns and the president used to be in a relationship. It's finally time to tell you about the lower entries in the loading screen, which you can't see outside of them for some reason. And some of these are pretty important too, as this head ups their backstories, like Sam being a college football player. Wait a second.
laid solid bones. Omelets here, Jack. Can't spread over every egg.
And they rarely get into loading screens that actually goes really fast, unlike Starfield. I don't think I need to tell you that this is a bad idea. But moving on, after Sam is Professor Candide once again, he is angry at Sam working with the Marines, as he already told them that the traitor works in the government, the president. Now that part is revealed. But like, what is Sam supposed to do? Like actually, solo two entire armies? Because there's no way the Marines won't try to retake the colony, or betray and kill the Marines that's with him. Elena's ship's gonna get fucking blown up by the Marines if Sam did that from the beginning, killing her and leaving Sam without any operator to help him save Candide, and will likely just get lost in the colony. I mean, look how gigantic the station is. Either way, he managed to stop the microwave cannon from firing again. But
Burns! Why?
Sorry, Sam. This fight is for the men going home in pine boxes now. I'm changing the microwave's target to Moscow.
of course, Burns and the Marines has their own agenda too, and that is to use the cannon on Moscow. Sam, being the hero that he is, refuses to let this happen, and now you're actually fighting Burns and his Marines. So Burns actually got an upgrade for this boss fight, basically turning himself into a human Dom from Gundam, with light rockets and arm cannons. Instead of the usual shielded minigun, he also got backup in the form of Marines. But to be honest, I don't think they're actually the Marines that we fought with before, but instead some sort of Black Ops troopers that was sent to the colony to back up the president's new plan, which explains the upgrade that Burns got, and them using gear that's never seen before until this fight. Like, those jetpacks would have been useful for the Marines. After defeating Burns, he suddenly changed his mind about Sam because he won the fight, and they're buddies again, and opens the door for him to escape while also holding off some of the soldiers.
Burns! You gotta stay still.
You win, Sam. Now get out of here.
No, we leave together.
Get out of here!
That's an order!
Yes, sir.
My men are dead. I belong with them.
I'm sorry, but this is fucking nonsense. The theme of sacrifice has been a thing throughout the game. It is something that Sam and Burns are always at odds. But like, there's no development to this theme at all. None of them develop enough to see the other's perspective, and still pretty much have the same opinion about it throughout the entire game, with only one tiny lip service at the end. None of them budge or question their worldview. And also, Burns put himself into this position in the first place. He chose to do this. He chose to fight Sam and blast the cannon at Moscow. And while it is poetic that the last sacrifice that he made was his own life after sacrificing so many of his men for the mission, he again put himself into this position in the first place to be a government stooge. So instead, it just makes him look schizophrenic. I don't know what they're trying to do with this. Like, make us feel sad about it? I don't know. I think it would have been better if he just straight up refuses to do the order after meeting Sam again, but still have that traitor revealed scene, but without shooting Candide. Then, after some more talking to by Sam, start shooting the Black Ops that's holding Sam at gunpoint, showing that he's changed and that he won't allow his men to die anymore because he finally sees Sam as one of his men, and to finally do the right thing. In the original, he explicitly doesn't think the Black Ops soldier as his man, so it's still in character. So this kinda requires him to actually budge to Sam's demand to wait for the Marines in an earlier scene, saving them as a setup for his changing worldview, instead of, you know, letting them choke to death and going on another spiel on how Marines will finish the job whatever it takes. Candide still dies, but this time from Zaitsev sniping him, so he doesn't fall into his enemy's hands, and then he just runs away. Anyway, in this scenario, instead of fighting Burns and the Black Ops troopers, you only fight the Black Ops troopers with an upgraded Burns backing you one last time. They can have another super cyborg Black Ops soldier or something as a boss, so the upgraded Burns can take a hit for Sam and get critically injured to arrive at the same point. This way, there's some character development and an emotional payoff that Sam's idealism changes Burn's cynicism and makes his final move make sense in a thematic and emotional level, and also Sam's reaction to his death. So he actually sacrifices himself this time, and that the last one to be sacrificed should be his own life after sacrificing so many of his own men, and that in the end, he belongs with them after saving someone that he thought as his own. Thank you for listening to my horrible fanfic. Anyway, after Burn sacrificed himself, Sam moves on to the core, only to get blocked by Zaitsev. Well, Zaitsevs, and they're your final boss. Killing one of them that turns out to be a Doombot, Sam asks Elena to release his limiters, and this is the moment you see the true potential of the suit, because holy shit. I wish this was Sam's devil trigger. After beating Zaitsev, it's revealed that it's yet another Doombot, but this Doombot has a nuke with it. Sam took the hint and just get the hell out of there before the nuke goes off. After a false alarm, Sam is reunited with Elena again. Apparently, all of the Space Marines got destroyed. Sam contemplates that he and Burns might not be so different after all, because he sacrificed someone for his ideals.
We both sacrificed others to uphold our own ideals.
But Sam, you saved so many more than that.
Yeah.
Which of course doesn't make any sense because he was defending himself or someone that was actually trying to kill him. And that person just decided out of nowhere to sacrifice himself for the target. And if you say it's a Survivor's Guild, I thought it's just for riding. He didn't sacrifice anyone for shit. Thankfully, Elena is being the voice of reason here too, as she does throughout the entire story. Then we're shown that the evil Space Russians are setting up for the sequel. And then we see that the president played too much Persona 3. Guess she won't be Vanquish too. Praise! Shoot him here! Credits! The story is easily the worst aspect of Vanquish, but thankfully it's just as easily ignored. Most of the dialogue are gung-ho Call of Duty talk with some really weird references.
That shock treatment actually fixed my back problems.
Bet you can get one of those things on eBay.
Wait, eBay still exists? Why did you about eBay? And also some weird jokes.
This colony won't be walking straight for a while.
What verse did you fuck the colony? The characters were acted well enough, but they don't really develop in a natural way throughout the game. And it hammers the sacrifice theme so much, but it went nowhere. The main twist is also quite derivative of Call of Duty or Battlefield, but that's like, whatever. And between those moments are just long stretches of do this, destroy this, go there, do that, with some mild banter about sacrifice or something. It's a good excuse to get you to the next arena, don't get me wrong, but it could have been a lot better. I also feel like they don't use Zaitsev to his true potential as Sam's rifle type character. Like, he should have harassed Sam and Burns throughout the game, and have multiple boss fights, instead of another buzzard, so that it also builds him up as the rival to Sam. Vanquish's story could have been a lot better. There's actual potential here for an entertaining popcorn style story, but it wasn't executed as well as it could have been. However, it's still kinda interesting to see what the Japanese take on these kinds of plots though. No matter how mid or even bad the story is though, Vanquish completely makes up for it in its gameplay. It's just straight up excellent, with an almost timeless presentation and near perfect combat. It's still really f***ing good and definitely worth your time. I mean, it's a short game, but that's besides the point. Well, there were some minor complaints like the upgrade and melee system. None of them were glaring enough to actually detract from the gameplay. While Vanquish reviewed very well with critics and the people that actually played it, like, oh shit. Unfortunately, it was an abject failure in sales because Sega didn't promote it at all and placed their bets on the Blue Blur instead. It did get a resurgence after it was released on PC and packaged with Bayonetta, but unfortunately, Vanquish still didn't reach enough popularity to endure the test of time like Bayonetta or Metal Gear Rising did, and was instead mostly forgotten by the general public, which was a shame really, because this is peak, and I demand more. Thank you for watching. I really didn't expect to go for this far again, but still, Vanquish forced my hand. So have you ever played Vanquish? What do you think about it? Comment down below, I would like to know. Anyway, super thanks again for watching. Leave a like, share, and subscribe, because you'll help me a lot, and also I can make more stuff like this, which I really just enjoy making. But yeah, see you later and have a great day.